Well, this request says, how do you make it look like light is shining through a flower? Well, once again, it's all about the light source and what it's doing. Well, like always in these quick tips, I like to show you how to work it out rather than to show you just how to. Because if I show you just how to do this one thing, you might apply it to other problems you have with painting and you might not. But if I show you how to figure it out, you can apply this to everything you do. So this is the way you figure it out. Now, first of all, when we're painting outdoors, or when we're painting anything, in fact, and we're using imagery. Now, this does not apply to abstract painting, but it does apply to when we're using images in our painting. There's a light source. That light source enables you to see it the way you do. And we as painters determine what that light source is doing. Now, in this case, the person has requested that the light is shining through the petals of the flower. And in that case, we know that the light source has to be somehow behind the flower. Now look here. We can see the light is hitting, the light rays are hitting this part of the flower, but the light is coming through this part of the flower. And so we would assume that the light is somewhere right back here. And we see this lit in the back here, and we can tell the light source is about right up here. So it's both coming through and hitting on these petals that are turned towards it. So we determine that. Then we look at, well, what colors do we see? And we never assume anything about color. It's always best to look at it closely and analyze it. And of course, my favorite way, as you know, is to use the color wheel. Now this time, what I'll do is what I will usually do, or how I'll teach my students to do. If I want to find the colors on the color wheel, we do that first. Then we find the tubes that will give us those colors and go from there. It makes it much more simple than just trying to guess which tube color you're going to use. All right, so some people would say red, some people would say pink. Forget that and just use your color wheel. Now, what do we see here? Well, we see some dark red, you see that? And perhaps a little red-orange right in here. And we do see red-orange right through in here. And we see lighter versions of that. Now, what we see behind it, well, we see just dark behind it there and here, and a little bit of green coming through here. But right now, we're just going to focus and concentrate on what happens to the light, or how we communicate or express light shining through the back of flower petals. So now remember, these quick tips we try to keep these quick tips short. So I'm going to show you just one thing. I'm not going to paint the whole flower, but I'm just going to show you one thing, and that is how we will make this appear as if the light's shining behind. Now, so I said red and orange, or red-orange, and then lighter versions. I like to set up my palette with a value line, or I call it a value color line. And I'll do that several ways, but one way that I think is easier to understand, I put the darks that are going to give me varying degrees of shadow. I put those in a row on the left, and the lights, or the ones that will really be light, I put in a row on the right. And in between, I call these the transition colors and values, because those are the middle values that we mixed with the darks to get the shadows, and with the lights to get those varying degrees of values in light. That's how I set up my palette. So what I chose here, dark red, What do I have that's dark red? I have alizarin crimson. Now, some people might choose cadmium red deep, but that's just, it's too restricted. And it's already a little bit desaturated and a little bit, it's not transparent enough to really mix well with other colors to give us what I see. So I like alizarin crimson for that dark, or at least to help control that dark, because it's transparent and it is the darkest red I have. That's in that red range. Now, what else do I see? I see I see the red orange coming through right in here. Well, I can use the red orange as a middle value, and because the mixture of this is what I see happening. I see these two colors are being mixed together in this dark shadow area. And so I chose here as the red orange, cadmium red light, because it's red orange. And then here in the light section, I simply took some cadmium red light and mixed it with white to get a light version. Now, why is this here? Well, we always need potential to control saturation. This is just a little bit desaturated. And so I chose a blue-green here because blue-green is a complement of red-orange. And so I usually will choose according to the hues that are in the center, because that's where we see in the middle values is where we see colors most saturated. And so I chose here, the blue-green is the Rembrandt version of Viridian. I specify I only use the Rembrandt Viridian. So this gives me the ability now to desaturate dark, desaturate middle if I need to, and desaturate light if I need to. Now that's how I set up the value line. So now I'm going to take you very briefly through how I use that value line to interpret this. So first of all, let's just give a little indication on my canvas here as to where that flower petal is, and I'll just dampen my dampen the brush with solvent that is Gamsol, and I'll reach just a little bit into the edge of alizarin here just to give myself just an indication. So we might just give us a very slight indication. I'm just looking at this flower right here. So a very, very slight indication of what that flower is, how that flower is constructed. Let's see a little bit of that center part about, I guess it's about right there. About right here, actually. That's a little darker than I really wanted it. Doesn't matter. This is just I call this preliminary drawing. It's actually placing an image so that we can work within that placement. All right, so I'm then going around. We see that one doing something like this, and then we see that one doing something like that, and this one goes off the edge and all around, sort of like that. All right, so this one, and this is, I just sort of make a little indication of directional movement there. That's the direction in which those petals are moving from the center, away from the center, and that's all I need for the placement. A lot of people will try to do a detailed drawing, and I don't like that. I like whatever I do to grow from the placement that I put down. All right, so enough of that. I usually go for shadow first. Now here's the way I'm going to do that. I'm just going to use one brush, and we'll start with the shadow portion. And we see that light coming through most, or read it most coming through right in here and right in here. So what I'll do there, let's use my palette now. I'm going to bring over the alizarin and the cadmium yellow, red light. I'm going to call them, well, I'll just call them by their cube name for the moment. We'll bring this over and let's see what that gives me in the way of a mixture for right here. Now you see that's actually, it needs to be a little darker of that center. You see, we are in that range right there, but we do need to be just a little bit desaturated. So I'm going to bring a good bit of that over now and mix. And I'm not going to mix it thoroughly. I'm just going to get it sort of mixed there like that. And I'll get a paper towel on and clean off the palette knife. Then, still with the palette knife, I'm going to mix just a little bit, just a little, not much, of the middle value of green right in here. Let me show you what that does. Now, if I mix middle into middle, I can desaturate it without changing the value. Let's see, that's a little bit too much of the green showing on the palette. That is right where we need to be for that portion. And I think I'm begin to go over here now. Let's see what this needs. Does this need? It does need a little bit more of the red orange. So let's just get a mixture that's sort of the middle of those two. I think that's going to remain pretty much on the red orange. So we're dealing with a kind of a narrow version there. Now, I'll get a clean paper towel to be sure I don't contaminate the colors. And we're going to wet the brush first, which I always do before starting to paint. Going to squeeze the brush out. Now, just going to very loosely pick up not just one mixture, but just a kind of a half mixture of those. And let's see here. Let's start on the edge and go towards the middle. Then start on the edge here and go towards the middle. Pick up a little bit more paint and quite have enough on the brush for that. And let's see, pick up a little bit more here and we'll go towards the middle like that. And let's go back in to that more desaturated version. I may have to put a little bit of that green up to give me access to just a very small amount. It doesn't take much. What we're seeing there, that's not that desaturated, but it is somewhat desaturated. So I'll just do this. Now see, this is the same sort of thing for painters who don't use a value line. You'll see them doing the same sort of thing. All right, this is what I want right there. All right, now I'm going to show you. Let's go ahead and pull that in and put it in here. Now, using a stroke that goes, this is a directional brush stroke. It's a stroke that follows the direction that a shape is moving in. Every shape moves in a direction, and that's what the directional brush stroke will do. It's my preferred way. I'm pulling a little bit of this light over here now because I'm seeing a little bit more of that light right in there. I'll just throw that in here like this, and what else? Okay, we see a little bit of that right there. We'll put a little bit more of the light in over here. I probably need to have that just a little bit more desaturated, so I'll reach down for the blue-green. And let's see, and then here, yeah, we do see some of that coming through in here like that. I'm going to pull that out of the brush and go back and begin to shape those others. As I said before, this is not going to be a complete painting. It's just enough to show you what's going on here. We're going to lay this in first because it's being overlapped by that petal. So I'll just lay it in and I'll just come right up to the edge of that one and stop and turn my brush around and pull down. And then I'm going to get a little darker here, a little darker and a little more desaturation here as I'm pulling that in and coming right into here like this and here like that, pulling that down. Now here, right here is where we're beginning to see that light come through. So there, I'm going to pull this off the brush. And let's see, right there, that looks pretty much like just a pure color. Let's see if it is, as it's coming through about right here. All right, now we're going to blend that. See, I'm blending it right into that dark. And then we'll go right up in here, and I'll catch that color still right here. And just blend it right down into that dark. Using that same directional brush stroke to blend so I don't lose that. Then I get into this part down here. Now we have a petal right there. I'm going to pull just a tiny bit of that light over here. What happens when you pull the light into alizarin, it changes the character of the transparency. And so that's why I'm doing that, because I see that happening there, and a little bit darker, less saturated. There it is right there. And so what we'll do, okay, here this time I'm going to ease it up like that, pull it towards that. Let's get it just a little bit lighter, tiny bit lighter, maybe just a little bit more desaturated right here. Trying to describe to you what I'm doing as I'm moving in these directions. Okay, now I'll move towards this one to pull it that way and pull it that way like that, and pull just a little bit more of that alizarin. I mean, red, orange, cadmium red light into that, and pull it back this way and that way. And let's get that just a little bit more moving towards the orange now. And from this point this way, then we see that beginning to get just a little bit lighter right here. Pull it back this way, pull it back that way. Let's see, I think this one does too. Pull it back that way. Now what's behind it is a little bit darker, not much, right here, and a little more desaturated. So the light's beginning to come through right here, and then the petal behind the light is in shadow. So it's a little bit darker as it goes in shadow. There's lots of ambient light. Ambient light means light that is around and bouncing back from other places. There's a lot of ambient light that's bouncing in there. That's what causes us to see those areas in shadow as light as we do. Even though the light rays are not shining on them, that needs to be just a little bit. Let's see. There we go. This is a good way to test if you have the right color on your brushes. So this goes about right here and pulls it down. And let's let that drop down just a little bit below my placement. And that's what's really happening there, isn't it? And okay, I got that just a little bit dark, but it doesn't matter that much. However, I will reach into the white just a little bit, and let's do just a little bit of scumble on top of that. There we go, like that. And let's see. Right now we're going to get just a little bit more of this light in here, because that light is reflecting on it. Let's check it out right here. Not quite enough, and it needs to be a little bit more desaturated. So I'll reach into the blue-green when it needs to be a tiny bit more desaturated. Now let's check that out. Pretty close there. All right, now so that will go, let's see, let's do it this way. Let's pull it down this way, and then scumble over this one like that, and pull that in and blend it. And we'll get it just a little bit darker here, and shape that petal and come up in this direction right here like that. Now the blending, there's lots of blending there. So I have just a little bit more, have a little bit more of that feeling of light coming through right in here. So let's scumble over this just a hair like this and like that. And let's see now. All right, let's go into, no, I need to build just a little bit more back here. And that will be, well, that's more desaturated. That's falling a little bit more into shadow, but it's got the light. It's got ambient light on it. Now, let's see, I think it's a little bit more desaturated than that, but not this much. Not quite that much. Let's pull that red. I'm going to pull some more of that alizarin back in here and raise that saturation a little bit right here. All right, that's more like it. All right, so now I'm going to start right here. I'm going to stroke this way. It is too desaturated. So I add the saturation back in and just come back over it like that. There we go. And more like this. And then let's see, build it right around like that. Now I'm going to begin to get more, a middle value here that is a little bit more desaturated for this area behind right here. You see, I'm waiting to the very end to put in that that real light, that where the light is, both these lights there. And let's see, I might have got that just a little bit too deep. Let's see, I need a little bit more of those alizarin there. Right in here. Well, let's change that shape just a bit, and we'll do this. There we go. I have just a little bit of that alizarin coming back here, and then pull that for. I'm kind of making up the petal here now, and so on like that. Now, I need something right back in here too. Let's get that back here. Let's just sort of just making this up just a little bit. Doing both. That's what artists do. You make it up and you respond to what you see. Now I'm going to go in for that light. I'm going to go in for where I see the light really, really right in here. Now we're going back into this part. Now I may have to reach up into my white, but may not. Let's see. So, okay, that needs to be just a tiny bit darker. Right, let's get this right in here. Be a tiny bit darker, but not desaturated. Let's see about this. That's close enough. All right, now I'm going to move right in here like this. Move towards the petal, and I'm going to move right in here, around like this. Move towards the petal. And I'm going to also move right in here like this. Move towards the petal. We're going to pull some more white down. Well, I didn't put my, yeah, maybe I did put out enough white. All right, I'm going to lighten that just a hair. Right in here. And so right in here. And we're going to pull this down. Petal goes and stops. Petal goes and stops. Let's pull now just a little bit of an interruption here. And then let's pull the paint off that and go back up in here. Petal goes and stops. Stops at the other petal. And the edge needs to be softer. So I'll pull all the paint off the brush and just sort of soften the edge very, very slightly right there and there. And soften this. Now we need a little bit stronger. I'm going to rinse the brush now so I can get a fully desaturated, a fully saturated red, orange there. Clean paper towel for that. All right, this is section right in here. All right, I'll need that fully saturated red orange right in there, right like that. And I'm going to pull that right in here like that. And I'm going to shape this down like that. I'm going to give that a little bit of a blend right into here and blend right into there. And then I'm going to pull some white. Let's get the white. I'm going to put just a little bit of tint in that white, just a tiny bit of red orange in that white part. I don't know if I have enough on the brush, but let's see if I do. Like that. I didn't have quite enough on the brush. I'm going to pull white out. Usually don't do that, but I don't want this to go on too long, so I'll break my own little habits there. Get right here and down, touch it there and here. And let's see, does that show it now? I don't have those stamen in there. I do need to do one other thing, and let's just mix up. I need to go back up into the alizarin. I'll get a new palette knife of alizarin. I'm going to add the blue-green into the alizarin right here and get it really, really dark and desaturated. And then I'm going to go in with a smaller brush right there, pick up that color. I'm going with a smaller brush right here and get that. And I need to get it sort of blended. Now let's see if I can handle that stamen. Is that right? Is that what those things are called? Let's see now. I don't know that it has a certain number, right? And then we'll connect. I don't need to connect them all. Just to connect. Oops. Give a suggestion of a connection. As if it's headed in that direction. Now I see that one of those now has a little bit more with the light. Now let's see, can we see the light coming through the flower now? Almost. I just need to do a little bit more of this right here, and then that will do it. Now, this sort of exercise where you are talking to yourself about the color as it goes on. You're talking to yourself about identifying the hue that you're seeing. Well, that's a little different from, doesn't matter. You're identifying the hue that you're seeing. You're also talking to yourself about the brush stroke that you need to make. Just taking things a little bit one at a time. I'm going to scumble just a little bit more white up here now. And here, that needs to be a little bit softer. And a little white there. Put a little white up here. Okay. And that still doesn't please me, so I'll just cut it right down in like that. Do it like that. And there's a little bit more light coming through here, like this. But this will give you an idea now of how you can create or observe. First, observe what what the light is actually doing to the flower, the petal of the flower, and then choose the colors to put that in. So this is a little bit too jerky right here. Let's just make it just a little bit more transition. This is what happens. I say I want to keep these. I say I want to keep these short, and then I get into seeing things pop up, and then I see it gets longer and longer. Let's see just a little bit more. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop right there. And that certainly not is how I would finish, but just to show you how you can observe the color and the value of the color, and observe the hue, the value of that hue, and the saturation of that hue, and using brush strokes that move in the shape or in the directional movement that the image is taking. With a little practice, you can pull that off and give that a try now and see if it doesn't work for you. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.